Well, welcome in, and we're going to see here. We've got a few moments waiting on the president to come out to the podium, waiting on the feed. And anyway, that will be live momentarily. Oh, we found Joe. We found him. Oh,
The world is
there we go.
Close, not even close to what we were doing. I believe we can do it. And today,
All right,
we
got
made a
Joe
historic
Biden
investment
here.
in reaching the hardest hit and the most vulnerable communities, the highest risk communities, as a consequence of the virus, by investing an additional $10 billion
Oh
in being able
yeah,
to reach them.
we're gonna get the
I
extra
also set
600
a goal
goes. You said
before
2,000.
I took office of getting a majority of schools in K through 8 fully open in the first 100 days.
Let's not open the schools.
Now, thanks to the enormous amount of work done
because
by
they all
our
suck.
administration, educators, parents, local, state education officials, and leaders, recent Department of Education survey shows that nearly half of the K through 8 schools are open now full-time, 5 days a week for in-person learning. Not yet a majority, but we're really close, and I believe in the 35 days left to go, we'll meet that goal as well. As of yesterday, more than 100 million payments of $1,400 have gone into people's bank accounts. That's real money in people's pockets, bringing relief.
It's digital money.
Instantly, almost. And millions more will be getting their money very soon. One final note.
Joe, you owe me 600 more.
Since we passed the American Rescue Plan, we're starting to see new signs of hope in our economy.
Oh, that's an Obama
Since
word.
it was passed,
that's an Obama word. Hope.
Majority.
Hope is Obama.
the majority of economic forecasters have significantly increased their projections on the economic growth that's going to take place this year. They're now projecting it will exceed 6%, a 6% growth in GDP. And just this morning, we learned that the number of people filing for weekly unemployment insurance fell by nearly 100,000 persons. It's the first time in a year the number has fallen below the pre-pandemic high. So there are still too many Americans out of work,
press there.
too many families
Oh my gosh, they
hurting,
had 4 people there.
and they still have a lot of work to do. But I can say to you, the American people, help is here and hope is on the way.
Oh no, no.
And I'll be happy to take your
We're from the
questions.
government. We're here to help. No.
Zeke, the Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned your progress on COVID-19. I'd like to ask you about some of the other issues facing your presidency. One of the defining challenges you face in the coming months is how to deliver on your promise to Americans on issues like immigration reform, gun control, voting rights, climate change. All of those right now are facing
Here comes the gun control.
opposition from Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Gun control is population
How far
control.
are you willing to go to achieve those promises that you made to the American people?
Well, I'm good. Look, when I took office, I decided that it was a fairly basic, simple proposition. And that is, I got elected to solve problems. And the most urgent problem facing the American people, I stated from the outset, was COVID-19 and the economic dislocation for millions and millions of Americans. And so that's why I put all my focus in the beginning. There are a lot of problems, but all my focus on dealing with those particular problems.
No, you didn't. You
And
dealt with
the other
putting
problems
people
we're
who want to
talking
have their
about,
tallywhackers
immigration,
cut off
the
in the
guns and the other
military.
things you mentioned are long-term problems. They've been around a long time. And what we're going to be able to do, God willing, is now begin one at a time to focus on those as well. And whether it's immigration or guns or a number of other problems that face the country. But the
Trump had
fundamental
immigration
problem
figured out, dude. All you had to do is
getting
continue his
people some
policy.
peace of mind. So
Just
they can
because he
go to
has a
bed at
different
night and
letter
not stare at the
for his
ceiling
party
wondering where they lost their
doesn't mean
health
he doesn't have
insurance,
good ideas, okay?
whether they're going to lose a family member, whether they're going to be in a position where they're not.
Talk about the
gonna be able
cages,
to
man.
lose
Talk about
their
the dog
home
cages.
because they can't pay their mortgage, or the millions of people are going to get thrown out of their homes because of the inability to pay their rent. So we're going to move on these one at a time. try to do as many simultaneous as we can, but that's the reason why I focused as I have. And here's the deal. I think my Republican colleagues are going to have to determine whether or not we want to work together, or they'll decide that the way in which they want to proceed is to just decide to divide the country, continue the politics of division. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move forward and take these things as they come.
Oh my gosh.
Follow up, Mr.
Dude,
President.
it's such a repeat.
Can your presidency be a success if you can't make progress on those four challenges: climate change, immigration reform, gun control, voting rights?
Well, I plan on making progress on all of them, but that's going to be for the American people to decide. I think, I doubt whether
We tried
maybe
to
you did,
decide.
maybe others did. I thought many of you thought there was no
Some
possibility
people
of my
had
getting
questions
the
about how
plan
the
I got
decisions were made.
passed without any Republican
Those questions
votes.
were ignored.
Pretty big deal. Got passed. Growing the economy. People's lives are changing. So let's see what happens. All I know, I've been hired to solve problems, not create division. Okay. How about Yamish?
Who?
Thanks so much, Mr. President. You've said over and over again that immigrants shouldn't come to this country right now. This isn't the time to come. That message is not being received. Instead, the perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors.
That is not. Oh
How
my
you
gosh, you're
resolve
making
that
all this up.
tension, and how are you choosing which families can stay and which can go, given the fact that even though
Yamish
with Title 42,
is a
there are
liar.
some families that are staying,
Making stuff
is
up.
there a timeline
PBS,
for when we won't
your
be
tax
seeing
dollars
these
are paying for
overcrowded
this.
facilities
Oh
run
my
by
gosh,
CCB
it's so awful.
when it comes to unaccompanied minors?
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
look, I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's
Oh
the reason
yeah,
why it's
you're
happening.
Jesus
That
and
I'm
the
a decent
Beatles.
man, or however it's phrased. That,
You
that's
hear
why
all
they're
that rack
coming,
in the
because
background? I've
Biden's
got a
good
Labrador
guy.
puppy that is.
Truth of the matter is, nothing has
fancy, to say
changed.
the least.
As many people came, 28% increase in children to the border in my administration, 31% in the last year in 2019 before the pandemic in the Trump administration. It happens every single solitary year. There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March. It happens every year. In addition to that, there is and by the way, does anybody suggest that there was a 31% increase under Trump because he was a nice guy and he was doing good things at the border? That's not the reason they're coming. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat in the desert, number one. Number two, they're coming because of the circumstances in country. The way to deal with this problem, and I started to deal with it back when I was United States Vice President, for putting together a bipartisan plan of over $700 million to do with the root causes of why people are leaving. What did Trump do? He eliminated that funding. He didn't use it. He didn't do it. And in addition to that, what he did, he dismantled all the elements that exist to deal with what had been a problem and has been continued to be a problem for a long time. He, in fact, shut down the
problem was
number of
solved.
beds available. He did not fund HHS to get the children out of those border patrol facilities where they should not be and not supposed
You've
to
got
be more than
4
a few
times as many
days,
people
a
in
little
border
while.
patrol facilities.
But he
They're called
dismantled
dog
all of
cages.
that.
That's
So
what you
we're
call
doing
them.
now is attempting to rebuild the system that can accommodate what is happening today. And I'd like to think it's because I'm a nice guy, but it's not. It's because of what's happened every year. Let me say one other thing on this. If you take a look
Oh, thunder.
at
Here comes
the
the
number
thunder.
of people who are coming, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back. Thousands, tens of thousands of
No, they
people who are over 18 years of age and single people one at a time coming, have
Sounds
been
like a
sent
dating
back,
website.
sent home.
Over 18 and single.
We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border. And those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said. For example, of all the children who are coming across the border, over 70% are either 16 or 17 years old. We're not talking about people ripping babies from mother's arms or little 3-year-olds standing on the border. Less than, I think it's 1.5% fall in the category of the very young. So what we're doing is we're providing for the space, again, to be able to get these kids out of the Border Patrol facilities, which no one should be in any longer than 72 hours. And today, I went to, for example, I used all the resources available to me, went to the Defense Department, and the Secretary of Defense has just made available Fort Bliss, 5,000 beds.
5,000 beds.
Immediately available. 5,000 beds in the Texas border. So we're building back up the capacity that should have been maintained and built upon that Trump dismantled. It's going to take time. And the other thing we're doing, I might add, am I giving you too long an answer? Because if you don't want the detail. No, but I mean, I don't know how much detail you want about immigration. Maybe I'll stop there and finish.
My follow-up question is, one, if you could talk a little bit about which families, why they're being allowed to stay, what the families that are being allowed to stay, why they're being allowed to stay. And in addition to that,
Okay,
when it
Fort
comes to the
Bliss
filibuster, which
has
is what Steve
the
was
first
asking
armored
about,
division.
there's immigration
which
is a big issue, of course,
if I'm
when
not
it
mistaken,
relates to
that
the
was
filibuster,
Patton's
but there's
division.
also
And they've got 5,000 beds
Republicans who
they
are
can give up
passing
to
bill after bill,
people that aren't
trying to
American
restrict
citizens.
voting rights.
Jeez.
Chuck Schumer is calling it an
The
existential
military's
threat
not
to
supposed to help
democracy.
non-Americans.
Why not back a filibuster rule that at least gets around issues including voting rights or immigration? Jim Clyburn, someone, of course, who you know very well, has backed the idea of a filibuster rule when it comes to civil rights and voting rights.
Well, look, I'm going to deal with all of those problems. The question is the priorities as they come and land on my plate. Let's go to the first question you asked, the first of the second questions you asked. And that is, what about dealing with families? Why are not some not going back? Because Mexico is refusing to take them back. They're saying they won't take them back, not all of them. We're in negotiations with the president of Mexico.
Mexico won't take them back.
They should all be.
Why are they
going
here?
back.
That's
All
an,
be going back.
oh my gosh.
The only people we're not going to let
This is a
sitting there
repeat of
on the other
1980s
side of the Rio Grande
Castro
by
dumping
themselves
all of
with no
his criminals.
children.
He opened up the jails,
And
he emptied
what
them
we're
out, he
doing
put them
there,
on
and it's an
rafts, and he
important
sent them
point
to Miami.
Understand. I know you
Watch
understand.
the movie
I don't mean to say
Scarface.
it
The
that way.
beginning when they're in those
Important point to
camps,
focus
that's
on.
one of those prison camps.
The vast
that,
majority of
had
people
Castro's
under the
less
age of 18
desirables.
come to the United States come with a telephone number on a wristband, or come with a telephone number in their pocket in the United States. A mother, a father, a close relative, a grandmama or grandpa. What was happening before is it's taking literally weeks and weeks and
They're
maybe
coming
even
over
months
here
before
and they're
anybody
selling
pick up the phone and
kids
call
into sex
to
slaves.
see if there really was someone there.
Go to Walmart,
Well,
look
we've
on the
set up a
wall,
system now
and you'll see missing
where
children.
within 24 hours there's a phone call
Guess
made
what?
as that child crosses the border. And then a verification system being put in place as of today to determine quickly whether or not that is a trafficker being called or that is actually a mom, a dad, and or a close relative. They're establishing that right off the bat. If it in fact is mom or dad says, to take the extreme case, I got a birth certificate.
That is a mom
Then
or
guess
dad
what?
that is
You're getting
here
that
and they
kid
sent a
directly to
child
that
unaccompanied to the
parent
United
immediately.
States. Do
And
you know what
so
would happen if
that's
you sent
gonna
your child
reduce
unaccompanied to the
significantly.
7-Eleven?
There's 2 ways to reduce child populations in circumstances
Protective
that
services
are
would be
not
at your house
acceptable, like
in
being
minutes.
held at a border patrol station. One is to get them to the
And exactly,
place
like, this is
where
normal.
they
Like, this is a
have
good thing.
relative.
This is not.
set
This is
a
a
date as to
catastrophe.
when
This
the
is an
hearing can be
absolute. You
held.
want to talk about something moralistic?
second way to
That's the
do
most
it is put them
unmoralistic thing I've
in
ever heard in my life.
a
Why are
Health and
children being
Human
sent up here
Services
unaccompanied?
facility
Why are
that
we
we're
not figuring that
occupying
out?
now,
Mexico
both
won't work
licensed
with
beds
him.
around the country
There's bigger problems.
that
You know, we've
exist,
been
as
at
well
war with
as, for
Mexico
example,
more than
federal
any other country.
resources like Fort
They're
Bliss
not our friend. We need to
to
stop
get them
acting like, oh, hey, it's so
safely
great. You need to
in a
stop
place
visiting it
where
because
they
they
can be
hate
taken
you.
care
Okay,
of
you're a
while
sworn
their fate
enemy
is
of theirs.
determined.
Get over it.
Filibuster, fulfill the filibuster. You know, with regard to the filibuster, I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them. That it used to be that from between 1917 and 1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster that whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way. And for example, it used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum and vote. So I strongly support moving in that direction, in addition to having an open mind about dealing with certain things that are just elemental to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote. We've amended the filibuster in the past.
This should be good.
But here's the deal. As you observed, I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done. I want to get them done consistent with what we promised the American people. And in order to do that, in a 50-50 Senate, we've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie, or I get 51 votes without her. And so I'm going to say something outrageous. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate. So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's complete lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about. Okay.
This is about to wrap up.
Sorry. Oh, Ms. Kim.
Did you see that? Did you see that? They have their hands raised,
and
he has written down on the paper who he's going to call next.
Do you believe it should take 60
Holy
votes to end
cow.
a filibuster on legislation? Or
How did people get their name on the paper?
If we can end it with 51,
How did people
we've
get
got
their
no
name
problem.
on the paper?
You're
There
gonna have
are
to, in the
press
existing
people with their
rule,
hands up, and he
it's gonna
read
be
the
hard
next
to
name from a piece of paper
get a
without ever
parliamentary
looking
rule
up.
that allows
He called the person to keep him on
50
track.
votes to end the filibuster, the existence of a filibuster. But
He's back on the filibuster narrative.
it's not my expertise.
Wow,
and what the
this is
parliamentary rules and how to get there
so-
are, but our preoccupation with the filibuster is totally legitimate. But in the meantime, we
dude,
got a
this is
lot we can do while we're talking about what we're going to do about the filibuster. Let me get here. Okay. Cecilia Vega.
I'd like to circle back to immigration, please. You just listed the reasons that people are coming, talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blamed the last administration. Sir, I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border where I met 9-year-old José, who walked here from Honduras by himself, along with another little boy. He had that phone number
Astounding.
on him, and we were able to call his family. His mother says that she sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son. That's why she sent him alone from Honduras. So, sir, you blame the last administration, but is your messaging in saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process, encouraging families like Joselle's to come.
Well, look,
Did he pause?
the idea that
Oh,
I'm
he
going to
just stopped.
say,
I thought there was a
which I would
glitch.
never do, if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either. except
Yes, you
Trump.
send them back.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. That's why I've asked the Vice President of the United States.
And then when that
yesterday
kid grows up
to
and
be the
he
lead
kills a bunch
person
of people,
on dealing
like
with
the guy in
focusing
Colorado,
on the fundamental
you'll
reasons
blame
why people leave Honduras,
everybody else
Guatemala,
except
and
for
Salvador in the first
the
place.
kid that's over here illegally.
It's because of earthquakes, floods. It's because of lack of food. It's because of gang violence. It's because of a whole range of things that when I was vice president had the same obligation to deal with unaccompanied children. I was able to get it slowed up significantly by working with the heads of state of those communities to do things like in one of the major cities, the reason people were leaving is they couldn't walk the street because their kids were getting beat up or shot or gang violence. Well, what I was able to do is not give money to the head of state because so many are corrupt, but I was able to say, okay, you need lighting in the streets to change things? I'll put the lighting in. We got a contractor. We got the type of lighting. We paid directly to
Wow,
the contractor.
we got
Did not go
lighting,
through the government.
y'all.
And violent crime significantly was
streetlights.
reduced in that city.
I feel so
Fewer
much,
people sought to leave.
so much better.
When this
I just-
hurricane occurred, the two hurricanes, instead of us going down and helping in a major way so that
It's
people
almost
would
like
not
a
have
kitten
reason
with
to want to leave
milk on
in
its
the first
whiskers.
place
It's
because
just
they didn't have
you just
housing
have that
or water
feeling of
or
just so
sustenance.
much
We did nothing.
greatness, so
We're going to
wonderful
do a lot
because you have
in our
streetlights.
administration. We're going to be spending
3
that
streetlights out in my
$700+
neighborhood.
million a year to change
I
the
don't know what's
life and
happening when the
circumstances
streetlights
why people leave in
aren't
the first
on.
place. That mother did
Only
not
Joe
sit
would fix the
around
streetlights.
with on the kitchen table and say, you know, I got a great idea. Why I'm going to make sure my son get taken care of is I'm going to put how old was he or she?
He's 9. I also met a 10-year-old.
A 9-year-old. I'm going to send him on a 1,000-mile journey across the desert and up to the United States because I know Joe Biden's a nice guy and he'll take care of him. What a desperate act to have to take.
What a loser
Circumstances must be
parent
horrible.
to send a child,
So we
a
can do
9-year-old
something
child.
about that.
When
That's
I
what
was
the vice
9 years
president's
old,
going to be doing. What I
I
did.
don't think
When
I knew how to
President
go to the grocery
Obama
store.
asked
Do
me
you
to
remember
come
in the
and
movie
deal.
Home
I was
Alone?
in-
Isn't
I was in,
Macaulay Culkin's
Turkey
character,
at the
isn't he
time. He said,
9?
you got to come home and take
Remember how
care of this.
intimidated he was by going to
We
the
put
grocery
together
store?
a plan and it had
And
an impact.
it's like
And so
macaroni
the
and cheese
question
was like the
here
main
is
thing he got.
whether how we go ahead and do this.
That kid
what we do.
made a 1,000-mile
There's no
journey across
easy
a desert,
answer.
according to Joe, just now.
Quick follow-up.
Baloney.
Do you want to see these unaccompanied minors staying in this country, or should they be deported
Deported.
eventually?
Well, the judgment
Deport
has to be
them.
made whether or not.
No,
in thi- in
deport
this
is
young
too much of a
man's
stuff.
case, he has a
Turn 'em
mom at
around.
home.
Say,
There's
you went the wrong way.
Reason
You're
why
supposed to
he'd be
go
put in a
that
plane
way.
and flown back to his mom.
Follow, sir. You mentioned circumstances that must be horrific. The Customs and Border Protection Facility in Donna, Texas, I was there, is at 1,556% capacity
Yep.
right now with mostly unaccompanied minors. There are kids that are sleeping on floors. They are packed into these pods. I've spoken to lawyers who say that some of these children have not seen the sun in days. What's your reaction? What is your reaction to these images that have come out from that particular facility? Is what's happening inside acceptable to you? And when is this going to be fixed?
That's a serious question, right? Is it acceptable to me? Come on.
Oh my gosh.
That's why.
Who is
we're
this
gonna be
chick?
moving
I like
1,000 of
her.
those kids out quickly. That's why I got Fort Bliss opened up. That's why I've been working from the moment this started to happen to try to find additional access.
How come the National
children
Guard
to
that
be
you
able
brought
to
in
safely,
for a
not just children, but particularly children,
faux
to be able to
threat
safely be
in
housed
D.C.
while we follow
I had to
through
sleep
the
on the
rest of what's
ground
happening.
on
That is
concrete.
totally unacceptable. Ken.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about Afghanistan. You face a May 1st deadline for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from that country. As a candidate in foreign affairs, you wrote that it is past time to end these forever wars. Can you commit to the American people that by May 2nd, the U.S. will no longer have forces in Afghanistan?
The answer is
Another
that
awesome question.
it's going to be hard to meet the May 1 deadline.
See, that's what they all
Just
say,
in
but they
terms
don't.
of
They're not being honest with you. No
tactical
politician's being
reasons,
honest
it's
with
hard
you.
to get those troops out.
Afghanistan.
So what we've been doing, what I've been
has
doing,
a.
and what Secretary Blinken
We'll
has
just
been
go.
doing,
We'll call it an unlimited
has been-
supply.
we've been meeting
of
with our allies,
precious minerals.
those other
that
nations
some of
that
them
have
we don't.
NATO allies who
I
have
think we don't
troops
even know what
in
they do yet
Afghanistan
or
as
what they
well.
can be used for. But
And,
everything's been identified.
And if we leave, we're going to do
everything.
so in a safe
I'm using
and
extremes here,
orderly
okay?
way.
Just to grasp an easy idea
where
of
in
how to grasp it.
consultation, I say with our
Everything
allies and
you pick up
partners
a rock
and
in
how to
Afghanistan,
proceed.
and it can be turned
And Secretary
into a
Blinken
precious
is
metal that's
meeting
needed
in
for a
Brussels this week with
superconductor,
our NATO
silicon
allies,
chips, all that stuff,
particularly
lithium
those who have
batteries,
forces
whatever
there.
it is. The
And
next
General
generation of
Austin
technology
is
will be
just met with
mined out of
Kayani, and I'm
Afghanistan.
waiting for the briefing on that.
And
He is the
China
leader in
is.
Afghanistan and
I wish I
Kabul.
had a map in front of me.
And
China is right at the
there's a
border,
UN-led process
and they
that's
are
beginning
chomping at the bit for us to
shortly
just abandon it.
on
And they're
how
just
to
going to come march through.
mechanically get
And they'll
people,
kill all
how to
the
end this war.
Afghanis. There won't be a problem
But
there.
it is not my intention
So
to stay there
China
for a long time.
wants all of those
question is,
minerals.
how and in
And
what
if
circumstances
they get
do
it,
we meet
the United States will
that
be
agreement
crippled
that was
forever. I mean,
made
this is like
by
a super
President
serious
Trump to leave
national security
under
interest.
a deal that
We
looks
can't
like
leave
it's not
Afghanistan.
being
Don't
able
ever
to be
think we
worked out
can.
to begin with? How's that done? But we are not staying a long time.
Do you think it's possible that
We
could-
will leave. The question is when we leave.
Sorry, do you believe, though, it's possible we could have troops there next year?
I can't picture that being the case. Okay, Kristen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Given the conditions that were just laid out at the migrant facilities at the U.S. border, will you commit to allowing journalists to have access to the facilities that are overcrowded moving forward?
I will commit.
Another great
my
question.
Plan very shortly is underway to let you have access to not just them, but to other facilities as well.
Be able to have access to the facilities. We've obviously
There's
been
no
allowed
reason
to
for them
be
not to have
inside
access
one,
to see these
but we
kids.
haven't
There's no
seen
security interest in
facilities
it.
in
There's
which
no reason
children
whatsoever
are
for
packed
not to be open.
together
We
to
ought to be
really
able to
give
go
the
and watch
American
them.
people a
Maybe
chance
you
to
put
see
some
that. Will you commit to transparency on this
machines
issue?
will
on front.
commit
You
to
put quarters in, you
transparency.
turn the knob,
And
peanuts
as
fall
soon
out, you
as
toss
I
them
am
to
in
the kids, just
position
like you
to
do
be
at the
able to
zoo.
implement what
Because
we're
that's how they're
doing
held, in
right
cages.
now. And one of the reasons I haven't gone down, I have all my chief folks have gone down, is I don't want to become the issue. I don't want to be, bringing all the Secret Service and everybody with me to get in the way. So this is being set up, and you'll have full access to everything once we get this thing moving.
Okay, and just to be clear, how soon will that be, Mr. President?
I don't know, to be clear.
You bear responsibility for everything that's happening at the border now. I hear you talking a lot about the past administration. You decided to roll back some of those policies. Did you move too quickly
To roll back
some
what, I'm
of
sorry?
the policies? Did you move too quickly to roll back some of the executive orders of your predecessor?
First of all the policies are underway. We're not helping at all. Did not slow up the amount of immigration, and there's many people coming.
Pet peeve
And
is the word
Rolling
slow
back the
up.
policies of
You can slow
separating
down,
children from their
but you can't
mothers,
slow up.
make no apology for that. Rolling back the
Golly.
policies of remain in Mexico, sitting on.
You don't
the edge
speed
of the
down,
Rio
you speed
Grande
up.
in a muddy circumstance.
You
with not
slow
enough to
down,
eat.
you don't slow
I
up.
make no apologies for that. I make no apologies for ending programs that did not exist before Trump became president, that have an incredibly negative impact on the law, international law, as well as on human dignity. And so I make no apologies for that.
To ask you about foreign policy, Mr. President. Overnight, we learned that North Korea tested 2 ballistic missiles. What, if any, actions will you take, and what is your red line on North Korea?
Let me say that, number one, UN Resolution 1718 was violated by those particular missiles that were tested. Number one. We're consulting with our allies and partners, and there will be responses if they choose to escalate. We will respond accordingly. But I'm also prepared for some form of diplomacy, but it has to be conditioned upon the end result of denuclearization. So that's what we're doing right now, consulting with our allies.
Just very quick
You only got
follow-up.
another hour now, okay?
Diplomacy, can you define what you mean? And former President Obama
We will not be
warned
doing this
the
for another
incoming
hour, will we?
President Trump
mean,
that North Korea
I've got some
was
paint.
the top
I could paint
foreign
on
policy
board
issue that he
and
was
watch it
watching.
dry
Is that
for an
how you
hour, and that'd
assess
be
the crisis in
better.
North Korea?
Yes.
Actually, you know what? I take all that back. An hour more of Joe
Okay,
standing
hang
on.
on a second here.
Oh, hold on a second here.
Nancy, CBS?
Oh, see, he looked down at his paper again
Thank
to
you very
name
much,
a
Mr.
reporter.
President.
He is
I wanna
not
go back
looking
to
out in the
voting
crowd.
rights. And as Yamiche mentioned, Republican legislatures across the country are working to pass bills that would restrict voting, particularly Democrats fear impacting minority voters and young voters, the very people who helped to get you elected in November. Are you worried that if you don't manage to pass voting rights legislation, that your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022?
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick. Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work.
Yeah.
Deciding that
There's a
there'll
federal
be
law
no
that you cannot be
absentee ballots
fired
under
for
the
going
most
to work,
rigid
for going to
circumstances.
vote.
It's all designed, and I'm
you
going to
should bring
spend
your
my
own
time
water
doing
to
three
the
things.
polls. It's
One, trying to figure
not
out how
sick.
to pass.
Matter of fact,
the
states like
legislation
Delaware, where
passed by
Joe
the
is
House.
from, is
Number one. Number two,
really bad about this.
educating the American
They'll
public.
send union
Republican
reps out
voters
to
I know
stand and watch the
find
line
this despicable.
and see who's voting.
Republican voters,
Just to remind them that they have to vote a
folks
certain way.
out in the outside this White House. I'm not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about voters. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic what they're trying to do. And it cannot be sustained. And do everything in my power, along with my friends in the House and the Senate, to keep that from becoming the law.
Is there anything else you can do about it besides passing legislation?
The answer is yes, but I'm not going to lay out a strategy in front of the whole world and you now.
And then on a related note, have you decided whether you are going to run for reelection in 2024? You haven't set up a reelection campaign yet.
Great
as your predecessor
question.
had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss him.
Have you,
No,
He
the
misses
answer is
Trump.
yes. My plan is to run for reelection. That's my expectation.
and then on.
He just
on-
said he
on one
misses his
other note,
predecessor.
on bipartisanship, your old friend, Mitch McConnell, says you have only spoken
His old friend,
to each
Mitch
other
McConnell?
once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
No, I haven't at all. I've been meeting. When's the last time a president invited the opposite party down at least a half a dozen times to talk about issues, everything from how we work. We're working with a group of 20 members of the Senate right now and House on how we reestablish our ability to make computer chips, how we get ahead of the game, how we can work together. We're working together on a bunch of things. But look, I know Mitch well. Mitch knows me well. I would expect Mitch to say exactly what he said. But this is a matter of making sure that I would like elected Republican support. But what I know I have now is I have electoral support from Republican voters. agree with what I'm doing. And so unless Mitch says the last thing I did, this last piece of legislation is so far left, well, then you ought to take a look at his party.
Republican voters agree with what
50%
you're
of them
doing,
must be over that
maybe
edge
they
as
aren't
well.
Republicans,
they
and they
support
need
what I
to
did.
go ahead and
Okay.
go out the door.
Where am I
Sorry,
here?
folks.
Let me see.
but,
Caitlin?
I mean, you're gonna have
Thank
to
you very
be
much,
specific
Mr.
about
President. I have a
something that
question for you, but first,
agreed
I'd like to
with
follow up
Biden
on
so
a
far,
question
because
from
it's just been
Unish, and that's on the
pointless
That counts as a
filibuster.
nonsense
question.
about
Go ahead.
undoing
I'll make it
anything
quick. It's a
Trump
quick
No,
touched. If
Regarding
Trump
the
touched the
filibuster,
toilet,
at John
they're
Lewis's
trying to figure
funeral,
out how to
President
reverse
Barack
the
Obama
flow.
said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
Ooh. Filibuster is
Successful
not a relic of
electoral
the Jim Crow
politics is the
era.
art of the possible. Let's figure out how we can get this done and move in the direction of significantly changing the
Personally,
abuse
I
of
like
even
the
the filibuster
filibuster.
rule first. It's been abused
doesn't
from the
know how to
time it
answer
came into
this.
being by an extreme way in the last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
Sounds like you're moving closer to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
You also just made some news by saying that you are going to run for reelection.
I said that is my expectation.
So is that a yes, that you are running for reelection?
Look, I don't know
I
where
love
you guys
it.
come from, man. I've never been able to
Oh, look,
travel. I'm a
man.
great respecter of fate. I've never been able to plan 3.5 years ahead for certain.
And if you
It-
do run, will Vice President Harris be on your ticket?
I would fully expect that to be the case. She's doing a great job. She's a great partner. She's a great partner.
And do you believe you'll be running against former President Trump?
Oh, come on. I don't even think about, I have no idea. I have no idea whether it'll be a Republican Party.
You have no idea if your fly's zipped.
I know you don't have to answer my question, but I mean, do you? I mean, look, this is the way I view things.
I have no idea there'll be a Republican Party. Is that a threat?
I set a goal of this that's in front of me to get things done for the people I care most about, which are hardworking, decent American people who getting really having it stuck to them. I want to change the paradigm. We start to reward work, not just wealth. I want to change the paradigm. If you notice, didn't you find it kind of interesting that my Republican friends were worried about that the cost and the taxes that had to be had, if there is any tax to be had, as they talk about it, in dealing with the act that we just passed, which puts money in people's pockets, ordinary people? Do you hear them complain when they passed close to $2 trillion Trump tax cut, 83% going to the top 1%? Do you hear them talk about that at all? I love the fact that they found this whole idea of concern about the federal budget. It's kind of amazing. When the federal budget is saving people's lives, they don't think it's such a good idea. When the federal budget is feathering the nest of the wealthiest Americans,
they
90
talk about the
of the
wealthiest
Fortune
Americans.
500
You know
companies
what?
making billions of dollars, not paying a cent in taxes, reducing.
I'm for
taxes
cutting
to the
wealthy
point
people's
that
taxes.
people
I'm
who
for
are
anything
making,
that keeps
if you're a
money out of
husband
the
and wife,
hand of the
school
federal
teacher,
government.
and a cop,
Government money
you're
in the
paying at a
treasury
higher rate than
is
the average
growth.
person making $1 billion a year is. Something's wrong. Their newfound concern. I'm concerned. Look, I meant what I said when I ran, and a lot of you still think I'm wrong, and I respect that. So I'm running for 3 reasons: to restore the soul, dignity, honor, honesty, transparency to the American political system. 2, to rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class, hardworking people and people struggling to get in the middle class. They built America, and unions built them. The 3rd reason I said I was running was to unite the country. And generically speaking, all of you said, no, you can't do that. Well, I've not been able to unite the Congress, but I've been uniting the country based on the polling data. We have to come together. We have to. So from my perspective, You know, it's, to me, it's about just, you know, getting out there, putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to make things better for people. Just hard-working people.
You know, I got a Star Wars
People
video.
get
I
up
need to
every
work
morning
on.
and just want to figure out how to put food on the table for their kids, to be able to have a little bit of breathing room, being able to have, make sure that they go to bed not staring at the ceiling like my dad did, wondering whether, since he didn't have health insurance, what happens if mom gets sick or he got sick? These are basic things, basic things. And I'm of the view that the vast majority of people, including registered Republicans by and large, share that same view, that same sense of what is, you know, what's appropriate. Justin doesn't think, Bloomberg.
Thanks, Mr. President. I wanted to ask about your relationship with China now that you've been in office for a couple months. There's obviously the meeting in Alaska that was a little theatrical, and there's the continued human rights abuses. So today, I'm wondering, are you more likely than you were when you came into office to maintain tariffs on China? Are you considering banning imports of forced labor products? And would you consider cutting off U.S. investment or Chinese access to international payment systems?
Well, look, they're each specifically legitimate questions, but they only touch a smidgen of what the relationship with China really is about. I've known Xi Jinping for a long time. Allegedly, by the time I left office as vice president, I had spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader had, because President
Let's talk about
Obama
some other stuff that's
and the
cooler than
Chinese
this.
president Hu
So I have a pop
decided we
filter
should get to
on
know one
my
another,
microphone.
since it was
And I'm thinking about
inappropriate
getting,
for
and
the
I
president
just
of the United
learned that
States
it's
to spend
called
time with the
this
vice
a
president of another
dead
country.
cat.
But it
Is
was
that not
obvious he was going
awful
to
sounding?
become
But it's those
new
fuzzy
leader of
things that
China.
go on the end of a. I've got a.
So I spent hours upon hours with him alone with an
Is
interpreter,
it the blue
my
snowball?
interpreter and
Is that what they
his,
call it?
going into great detail. It's very, very straightforward.
I mean, it's a cool
Doesn't have
microphone.
a Democratic with a small d bone in his body,
Anyway, I'm thinking about getting
but he's
a
a smart guy.
dead cat for it.
He's one of the guys
And
like
also
Putin
my
who thinks
pop
that
filter.
autocracy is the
Use them
wave of the
both.
future democracy.
Anybody
can't
have any
function in
idea?
an ever-
Good, bad, ugly?
an ever complex world.
Know what I'm talking about?
So when I was
I'll take my
elected, he
desk
called
off
to
while this is
congratulate me.
happening.
I think to the surprise
So,
of the China experts who
Let's
were
see here. Move
his
my
people on the
switch.
call as well as
By
mine.
the way, if
listening.
you have not played
We had a 2-hour conversation
Ghostbusters
for 2
on the
hours.
Switch, you hate yourself.
And we made several things
It
clear to
is
one
an
another.
awesome game.
I made it clear to him again,
Nothing
what I've
like
told
that.
him in person on several
I
occasions,
got a bunch of.
that we're not looking for confrontation, although we know there will be steep competition. 2, that we'll have strong competition, but we'll insist that China play by the international rules.
So let's see here.
Fair competition,
Do the microphone thing.
fair practices, fair trade.
I can't get my
Thirdly,
voice.
in order to
right.
compete effectively, I indicated
The
that
microphone's a couple
we're going to
octaves
deal
higher,
with China,
it feels like, on
effectively.
my voice. You know, everybody
and
hates
we're going to
their
need
own
3
voice
things to
anyway,
do that.
But
Telling
I
our
want to
people.
be clear
First,
and clean.
we're going to invest in American
course,
workers and American
You never want to pick up
science.
breathing.
I said that all through the
I thought I was
campaign, I
dying
say it
the first time I
again,
heard
and
myself breathing.
I'm setting up
Here.
my administration to be able to do that, which is that,
Oh, I
you
got a lot
know,
of
back
background
in the
noise
60s,
too.
we used to invest a little over 2%
Main thing is I
of
just
our
want
entire,
really
entire
clean. I'm
GDP
thinking
in pure
maybe get some
research,
soundproofing.
investment in science. Today, it's
for the
0.7%.
wall.
I'm going to change that. We're going to change that. The
Well, isn't it great
future
when you find a
lies in
battery
who can, in
that you don't know
fact,
where it goes to.
own
Like
the
this is a
future
CR
as it relates to
2016 I just
technology,
found.
quantum
It's
computing,
the
a whole
smallest
range of
coin
things,
battery I've ever seen.
including in medical fields. And so what I'm going to do is make sure we invest closer to 2%. One of the reasons why
I usually don't pay cash
set
for
up the
things.
the
and I've
PIAB,
got
the
more
President's
loose
Board with
change
Scientists
than
and the like,
anybody
again,
ever.
is we're going to invest in medical research, cancer,
Joe's going to invest
Alzheimer's,
in medical research. He's going to
diabetes,
invest
things,
for
industries of the
mental
future.
research.
artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biotech, and we're going to make real investments. China is out investing us
So
by
much
a
stuff.
long
I'm so
shot
behind on.
because their plan is to own that future. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to reestablish our alliances, and I've been very clear. with you.
Reestablish our alliances. Like
It's not anti-Chinese, and we've talked about it. I want to make sure that, for example, later today, after this, as a matter of fact, shortly after this, which is fine, we've been going close to an hour. I'm happy, go longer, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be speaking with
we're at an hour right
27
now.
heads of state in
I'm
Europe.
impressed with Biden. I guess a
Very
minute. I mean,
shortly,
before he
I think
guided.
within the next hour.
So where do I go
don't know the
next?
exact time.
This is pretty good.
And
Look at him.
earlier
He's got
this
his arm
month,
stretched out.
and
He's starting to
apparently
feel
got
good.
the Chinese attention. That's not why I did it. I met with our allies and how we're going to hold China accountable in the region.
I think
Australia,
the Botox
India,
got him.
Japan,
You know, there
the
is
United
such things
States,
called
the so-called
Botox
Quad.
toxin.
Because
whatever.
we have to
It'll
have
mess you up.
democracies working together. Before too long, I'm going to invite an alliance of democracies to come here to discuss the future. And so we're going to make it clear that in order to deal with these things, we are going to hold China accountable to follow the rules.
Oh yeah.
Follow the
You
rules.
can't hold them accountable, dude.
Whether it
They're
relates to
literally
the
bigger than us.
South China Sea or the North China Sea or the
Like,
agreement made
China
on Taiwan or a whole
benefits
range of
from
other
going to
things.
war.
And the third thing,
They benefit from
and
losing
the
a
thing
bunch
that
of people.
I admire about dealing
You
with
know,
Xi
they
is
had
she
an outbreak.
understands. He makes no
I don't know what
pretense
you're
about
allowed
not
to say
understanding what
on
I'm
the
saying
tubes
anymore.
here,
I do him.
but they had an outbreak.
I pointed out to him,
And I've
no
always kinda
leader
thought
can be sustained in his
It might
position, her
be
position,
kind of
unless they
intentional
represent
there.
the values of the country.
That's what
And I
communists
said,
do. It's easier
Mr. President, as I
to
told you
wipe
before,
somebody out than it is to feed them.
Americans value the notion of freedom.
We still got thunder here.
America values human rights.
like,
We don't always live up
Garth
to our
Brooks.
expectations, but it's a value system. We are founded on that principle. And as long as you and your country continues to so blatantly violate human rights, we are going to continue
Yeah,
in
but
an
they're
unrelenting
Chinese
way to
rights.
call to the attention
They
of the
count
world,
as humans.
and make it clear.
Oh!
make it clear what's happening.
I
And
mean that
he
literally from
understood
the
that.
Tricom
Made it clear
perspective.
that no American president,
Can't trust them.
at least one did, but no
Don't
American
like 'em.
president ever backed down
They're-
from speaking out of what's happening to the Uyghurs, what's happening in Hong Kong,
Weird
what's happening in
group
country.
that
That's who we are. The moment a president walks away from
want to
that,
see
as
our
the last one
demise.
did, is the moment we begin to lose our legitimacy around the world. It's who we are. So
How
I
about
see
North
stiff
Korea? Let's talk
competition
about that one. How
with China.
the Democrats
China
completely
has an
destroyed
overall goal,
peace
and
with
I
North
don't criticize
Korea.
them for the goal, but they have an overall goal to become the leading country in the
Trump
world,
really had it figured
the
out. He had
wealthiest country in the
what's
world,
his
and the
name?
most powerful country in the world.
Kim Jong Il.
That's not going to happen on my watch.
Whichever one it is
The
now
United
today.
States is going to continue to grow.
He had him
and
at the
expand.
table.
All right, just to follow up on the meeting of democracies, is that where you expect in a multilateral way to make these decisions about sanctions or
No, that's not where I make the decision. That's where I make sure we're all on the same page. All on the same page. Look, I predict to you,
I predict
your
you.
children and grandchildren
Do you
are going to
really
be
predict?
doing their doctoral thesis on issue of who succeeded, autocracy or democracy? Because that is what is at stake,
What is?
not just with China. Look around the world. We're in the midst of a fourth industrial revolution.
The fourth
of
industrial
enormous
revolution.
consequence. Will
What?
the middle
Governor, it's the
class,
first industrial revolution.
how will people adjust
Ah!
to these
Tip your
significant
servers.
changes
Try the
in
veal.
science and technology,
I'll be here all week.
the environment? How will they do that? And our democracy is equipped
Okay,
because
another
all the
question on
people get to
microphones.
speak.
So
to compete.
my problem is I'd like to do a lot of stuff.
It
when
is
I'm
clear,
out.
absolutely
I
clear.
think very
And most of the
clairvoyantly
scholars I dealt with at
when I'm
Penn agree
driving
with
in a
me
car,
around the country
whether I'm riding,
that this is a battle
driving,
between
whatever.
the,
Think about like
the
a lapel
utility
mic.
of democracies in the 21st century and
I've got an
autocracies.
iPhone.
If If you
Anybody
notice,
got any
you
thoughts
don't
on
have
those?
Russia talking about
Lapel mine's in
communism
good,
anymore.
good, bad,
It's
ugly.
about an autocracy.
Oh, is he talking about autocracy?
Demand decisions
Joe,
made by a leader of a country.
Joe was
That's
really
what's at
good
stake
in the
here. We
Senate.
got to prove democracy works.
I mean,
Mr. President, sorry, I
you-
know you have
you know
another
what I
chance
mean.
to address the tragedies
But,
in Georgia and
presidency
Colorado.
is a
You had
whole
said
different
to
ballgame.
stay
People
tuned
are
for
weird about the
actions that you might
presidency.
take on gun control. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill that you had promised on day one to
Oh
Capitol
gosh,
Hill,
gun control,
or executive actions like going after ghost guns or
ghost guns.
giving money to cities
So it
and
doesn't
states
exist.
to battle gun control.
All the above. It's a matter of timing. As you've
Timing means
all
they have to have the
observed,
right mass murder to capitalize on.
successful presidents better than me
You haven't been successful yet. You've only
have
been in there 2
successful in
months.
large part because they know how to time what they're doing. Order it. Decide in priorities what needs to be done. The next major initiative is, and I'll be announcing it Friday in Pittsburgh in detail, is to rebuild the infrastructure, both physical and technological infrastructure of this country, so that we can compete and create significant numbers of really good paying jobs.
Yeah, I
Really
mean,
good
we
paying
had them.
jobs.
You know what? The
And
best
some of you have been around long enough
paying
to
job
know
is the one that you create.
that used to be a
yourself.
great Republican goal and initiative.
You know, Hunter was trying to help.
I still
legalize
think the
prostitution,
majority of the
and he may
American
have been onto
people
something.
don't like the fact that we are now ranked, 85th in the world in infrastructure. I mean, look, the future rests on whether or not we have the best airports that can accommodate air travel, ports that you can get in and out of quickly, so businesses decide. Some of you, if you're ever local reporters, and you found your governor or mayor trying to attract business to your community, what's the first thing the business asks? What's the closest access to an interstate highway? How far am I from a freight rail? Is the water available? Is enough water available for me to conduct my business? All the things that relate to infrastructure. We have somewhere, I asked the staff to write it down for me, and they did, not for this, but for a longer discussion. We have somewhere in terms of infrastructure, we rank 13th globally in infrastructure. China is investing 3 times more in infrastructure than the United States is. Bridges, more than 1/3 of our bridges, 231,000 of them, need repairs. Some are physical safety
They're all going to
risks
say this.
or preservation work.
I'm sorry, I'm making
1
so much
in
noise here
5
the
miles
background.
of our
Look, I'm not
highways and
worried
major
about the
roads are in
infrastructure so
poor
much right
condition.
now.
That's
Remember,
186,000
Obama fixed all
miles
that
of
anyway.
highway. Aviation, 20% of all flights, 20% of all flights weren't on time, resulting in 1.5 million
20% of flights aren't on
lost
time.
in production.
20% of flights aren't worth
6
flying
to
on.
10 million homes in
I
America
hate flying. I used to
still
love
have
it.
lead pipes servicing their water lines.
Never. I'd be happy not
We
doing
have
it
over
ever again.
100,000 wellheads that are not capped, leaking methane. What are we doing? And by the way, we can put as many pipe fitters and miners and us to work capping those wells
See, this is Joe back
at the
into
same
his
price that they would
his
charge
groove.
to dig those
He's got
wells.
it now. He's not gonna
So
fall down the stairs.
I just find it frustrating. Frustrating. Talk about.
You find the stairs frustrating.
Last point I'll make in the infrastructure,
Oh.
and I apologize for spending my time on it, but is that if you think about it, it's the place where we will be able to significantly increase American productivity, at the same time providing really good jobs for people. But we can't build back to what they used to be. We have to build, the global warming's already done significant damage. The roads that used to be above the water level didn't have to worry about where the drainage ditch was. Now you got to rebuild them 3 feet higher.
Oh, he's talking about
Because
drainage.
it's not
I was
going
going
to
to
go
say,
back
if
to what it
you
was before. Only
would
get
take all
worse
the
unless we stop it.
environmental stuff off of roads,
There's so much
if you are not within
we can do.
eyesight
Look at all
of
the
a
schools in America.
uh,
Most of you live in the
moving
Washington
body of
area
water,
now. But in your
should not have
hometowns,
to
I don't know
do
where you're all
EPA
from.
regulations.
How many schools
How
where the
about
kids
that one?
can't drink the water out of the fountain? How many schools are still in a position where,
Oh, did you see something about
There's
fountains?
asbestos.
We don't have water fountains right now, and I don't think we
how
should
many
ever go back.
schools in America we're sending our kids to?
We don't have them because
Don't have
of
adequate
Corona.
ventilation.
Oh, I said the magic word.
How many
Please don't
homes,
get upset
buildings,
me, Mr. YouTube.
office complexes
I was talking
are
about beer.
wasting billions of barrels of oil over
Let's
time
talk about
because they
beer.
can't hold
So
in
Corona,
the heat or the air
they
conditioning
have the best
because it
Christmas
leaks through the
commercial of
windows
all
that are so
time.
porous.
I'm sorry,
and the
you cannot
connections.
beat the palm tree.
It's
You know,
amazing.
as a guy, I imagine it's
So
a
there's
dude by
so
himself,
much
right?
we can do that's good stuff,
No, you know what?
makes people healthier,
The dude,
and creates good
he's
jobs.
with some chick.
And I think
Probably
that
doesn't
I
speak-
got
they
one
don't
more
speak the same
question here.
language.
And Janet from
That is a Merry
Univision.
Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. President. We too have been reporting at the border, and just like Cecilia, we ran into a pair of siblings who
Wow.
came in on Monday,
I like
were
my
detained by
idea better.
CBP, had the phone number for their mother who lives in the US. We have contacted the mother. That's the only way they know her kids are here, because CBP today, Thursday, has not contacted that mother. So when can we expect your promise of things getting better with contacting and expediting?
Well, they're
the
already
process?
getting better, but they're going to get they're going to a whole hell of a lot better real quicker. We're going to hear some people leaving. Okay? We can get this done. We're going to get it done. I had a long meeting with the entire team and several cabinet level officers the other night. We're going to be moving within the next week over 100,000. I mean, 1,000 people out of
No,
the
this is a
Border
boring
Patrol
joke.
into safe,
Am I even
secure
on volume
beds
anymore?
and facilities. We're going to significantly ramp up. We're already
you
out there
bore me.
contacting everyone from getting
Boring.
some of the
This is so
employees at
boring.
HHS. There's a lot
Maybe
of
I'm
them
gonna put on
doing
my
other things and
house
move them into
shoes.
making those calls. We're in the process of rearranging and providing for the personnel
Oh,
needed to get that done.
Snore.
But I admire the fact that you
Snoring.
were down there, you're making the calls yourself. It's real. The next thing that has to happen, though, as you well know, has to happen, there have to be some certitude that this is actually mom, dad, or whomever. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to do that, a little bit like determining whether or not you
Come
got
on,
the
Joe,
right
let's wrap this
code
up.
for your credit card,
You know what? They're like, oh my
what was
gosh,
your
he's so
dog's
good.
name?
Just let him
kind of
talk.
thing. I'm being a bit facetious, but not really. And also seeking harder data from DNA to birth certificates, which takes longer. So I want to do this as quickly, as humanly possible, and as safely as possible.
Well, no, treating the root causes in Latin America doesn't change things overnight. How do you realistically and physically keep these families from coming to the US when things will not get better in their countries right away?
Well, I can't guarantee that, but I know, that old thing, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. You know as well as I do. You cover it. You have serious, it's not like somebody sitting on a hand-hewn table in Guatemala, in somewhere in Mexico or in Guadalupe saying, I got a great idea. Let's sell everything we have. Give it to a coyote. Have them take our kids across the
Dude,
border
don't give it
into
to
the
a
desert where
coyote,
they don't
man.
speak the
Those
language.
things, they eat Taco Bell.
Won't that be fun? Let's
You can't
go.
drive by a Taco Bell dumpster without seeing a
That's not
coyote
how
in
it
it.
happens. People don't want to leave. When my great-grandfather got in a coffin
It's
ship in
amazing
the
how people
Irish
think
Sea,
they're a stray dog.
expectation was he going to live long enough on that ship to get to the United States of America? But they left because of what the Brits had been doing. They were in real trouble. They didn't want to leave, but they had no choice. So I can't guarantee we're going to solve everything, but I can guarantee we can make everything better. We can make it better. We can change the lives of so many people. And the other thing I want to point out to you, and I hope you point out, I realize it's much more heart-wrenching, and it is, to deal with a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old. But you went down there and you saw the vast majority of these children, 70% are 16 years old, 17 years old, and mostly males. Doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. But the idea that we have tens of thousands of kids in these god-awful facilities that are really little babies crying all night, there's some, that's true. That's why we got to act. And
Oh my
yesterday,
gosh.
I asked my
Do everybody
team,
feel sorry for them?
both the director of the two
But, like,
agencies as
they
well
just
as
sound like they're
others,
playing real
I
life,
asked them, what would they in fact,
Oregon Trail.
and I asked their opinion because they're the
That's
experts.
it.
but I
Something's
said,
going on.
focus on the
Oh,
most vulnerable immediately. But there's no reason why in the next month as people cross the border, that phone call can't be made in the first 48 hours and begin.
If I may ask one last question, have you had any talks with Senate
Anybody
Republicans
who
who are
has an Xbox
threatening
One?
this administration with not
had
considering
the
the immigration
360
legislation that was passed in
and
the
the
House
Xbox One
until
both
the
give
situation at the border
red rings
has
of
been
death.
resolved?
360 ended up in pieces.
No, because I know
Xbox
they have to
One,
posture for a
I
while.
discovered
They sort
that
of
it's
got to
supposed
get
to
it
be
out of the
the
system.
power brick.
This
So
is
again, it turns out
a,
it was.
so
So I bought one for Taiwan.
but I'm
I
ready
wish
to
it
work
was
with any
Taiwan. I
Republican
bought from
who wants to help
Huan or something,
solve the
Anyway,
problem or
like
make the
18
situation
bucks.
better. But folks,
Works.
I'm going. Thank you very, very much.
Listen,
I appreciate
he's
it.
done.
Thank you.
He's done. He ran out of stuff. Well, Joe Biden made it. Joe made it. Oh, he went through. Is he coming back? Did he go out the
That's the end of
wrong
President
door?
Biden's first formal news conference since
All
his
right,
inauguration.
let's see.
Started at 1:27 this afternoon, concluded at 2:20.
Thank you, dude. We're gonna stop here. I don't know who you are. We're gonna turn you off. Stop the chit chat. How do I stop talking here? Oh, good. Gone. So I'm still here, still live. Aren't you excited? Anyway, I was talking about my Xbox Power Brick dying, and bought one for like $18 off of Amazon, and it works perfect. It sounds like a 747 taking off, and I read afterwards that if you take the original Power Brick and take it apart, you can clean it and it'll start working again. Well, I found my original Power Brick. I'm getting ready to take it apart. That's a video I should do. But anyway, well, listen, y'all. If you appreciate you, please like, please subscribe, all the good stuff. Be good to one another. And I'm going to make my Star Wars ripping Riley whatever videos. I got to finish those up. There's a new one supposed to be out today. A lot of stuff's happened between here and when I started. So anyway, peace, love. Don't do dope. Bye.